Why Ambedkar? What led you to the choice of this stocky, bespectacled, untouchable lawyer, as you say in page 52 of your biography?
Well, because of his extraordinary life, as I mentioned in my earlier remarks to all of you, it was astonishing that this gentleman, born in such humble origins, could have led the life he did and accomplished all that he did. That would have been astonishing even in a person born to much more affluence and privilege, like, say, Jawaharlal Nehru. To have achieved everything that Ambedkar did was remarkable in itself, and to do so from his background is almost incredible. That is, the background of somebody who was an untouchable in a society where that meant really horrendous privations. Imagine he is the smartest kid in his class, but whereas the smart kids are supposed to sit in the front of the classroom, he has to sit in the back in a corner, and he's not allowed to sit on a chair and a desk. He has to sit on a gunny sack, which he then has to remove and take with him when he goes home at the end of the day, because none of the peons or the school staff will touch his sack, because an untouchable has sat on it. He cannot drink water in the school unless somebody is available to pour it for him from a big distance. But if he goes and touches the tap himself, he gets beaten up because an untouchable should not touch the tap. These were the kinds of privations he had to go through. And when you think about this, and I talk about many other such episodes early in his life, and how despite all this horrendous discrimination, he rose above them to the accomplishments that I mentioned to you 15 minutes ago. Those accomplishments are truly remarkable distinctions. And the fact that he is now so popular, he's grown in stature after his death, he's admired across the country. There was an online poll conducted some years ago for the greatest Indian ever. And it was he who won ahead of Mahatma Gandhi. So there is clearly a reverence for him amongst the public of India. This is a poll in which apparently 20 million people participated. So you have to understand that we're talking about an exceptional individual. And I think understanding what made him who he was and why his legacy matters to all of us was what the task I set out to do. And I hope that all of you, when you read the book, will also get a sense of why Dr. Ambedkar mattered.
The next question, again, several questions from the audience as well touches upon that, you as a Congress person. And throughout the book, we see Dr. Ambedkar's strong criticism of Gandhi, and he describes the era, Gandhi era, as the dark era of India to that extent. Now, the blunt attacks. How do you, as a congressman, respond to this? Not as the author of the book, but as a Congress leader.
No, but you have to understand the context and the history. For Dr. Ambedkar, the most important thing was the eradication of untouchability and discrimination against the people, who were left out of the caste system. And he had an intellectual critique of the caste system, as well as a bitter reaction to the lived experience of it. And this is why he felt that while the Indian National Congress was fighting for freedom, in his view they were fighting principally for the freedom of the existing social order with the existing upper caste on top. And for him the more urgent task was to fight for the freedom of the Dalits within Indian society before you can put independence ahead. So that was his fundamental disagreement with the Congress. As to Mahatma Gandhi, he kind of disagreed with Mahatma Gandhi at various levels. He disagreed with Mahatma Gandhi's claim to speak for the untouchables. He felt that no person of a higher caste could appreciate what the untouchables were enduring. That was the first disagreement. And he felt that untouchable people from those communities, the so-called depressed classes, had to be able to speak for themselves, to represent themselves. Secondly, he didn't find Mahatma Gandhi's approach towards Dalit upliftment to be anything but patronizing. For example, Mahatma Gandhi invented the word Harijan, people of God, children of God. But he said, we are all children of God. Why is it that you single out one community and say they're children of God as if the others aren't. We don't accept that term. And in fact, Ambedkar used various other terms. Mukh or silent, Baishkrit or excluded. He even used the English word untouchable or the formal terms depressed classes and later after 1935 scheduled castes. But the word Dalit only came into use very late in his life, and he personally didn't have to use it, didn't have a chance to use it so much, but he didn't want to use the word Harijan. Then there was this disagreement about fundamental issues of political philosophy, whereas Gandhiji, for example, believed in an India of self-governing village republics. Ambedkar considered the villages to be dens of iniquity and sinks of ignorance and prejudice. So he wanted to override the prejudices of the villages by urbanizing India, and he had a much more top-down approach. He wouldn't agree with Mahatma Gandhi on that. So there were example after example where Gandhiji's approach and Ambedkar's approach were completely opposed to each other. I think part of the greatness of the Indian national movement of the 20th century was that it incorporated all of these diverse points of view, and that everyone was able to come together in making the India that we know today.